Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa kafa. Wa salamun ala ibadihi alladhina istafa amma ba'd. So we have been covering Asbāb al-Nuzūl, cause of revelation. And the last chapter we were doing was regarding the benefits. And we covered several benefits. I will refer you to the previous recordings if you were not present with us. And inshallah we are moving forward to two different discussions. This is regarding having multiple different ahadith regarding one particular ayah, and wal-aks, and the opposite of that, where we have one incident resulting in multiple ayat being revealed. This is called ta'addud al-asbāb wal-nāzilu wāhidun. Ta'addud al-asbāb, there are multiple different ahadith, multiple different stories that take place, wal-nāzil wāhid, and the ayah that is revealed is one. So when we start looking in the books of Asbāb al-Nuzūl, in the books of tafsir, we'll find ta'addud al-asbāb, multiple causes, one story, another story, a third story, and wal-nāzilu wāhid, and the ayah that is revealed is one. There'll be a story and said this story led to the revelation of ayah. Then you'll find another story led to the revelation of ayah. Third story led to the revelation of the ayah. And inshallah, after doing this, we will do the exact opposite. The exact opposite would be that there's only one incident that occurs and then multiple ayat are revealed regarding it. One incident and multiple ayat. So there is a longer discussion here in Manahil al-Irfan fi ulum al-Quran. At this juncture, I'll try to summarize it with just one scenario. There's like 4 different ways they can come to be, in Surah Arba is mentioned here. But I think for our discussion, one scenario should be sufficient. So he says here that if 2 different narrations exist regarding the revelation of a single ayah, all right, each is citing a distinct explicit reason. So each one of them is giving a very clear and explicit reason. And the different scenarios he talks about in the book, if one is sahih, one is not sahih, then naturally we'll go with the sahih one. If one is rajih, one is marjuh, one is stronger, one is weaker, etc. But the scenario that we are presenting here is the one in which both are considered valid. If both are accurate, both are trustworthy, there's no problem to consider both of them valid without favoring one over the other. It is possible that they can be reconciled and accepted together. So just the fact, this concept we should be aware of, that there could be multiple stories that result in one ayah being revealed. How will this happen? We will come to the conclusion that the ayah would have been revealed multiple times. Subhanallah. We come to this when the incidents are far apart, years apart, as we will see. If there are multiple incidents that happen around the same time, leading to one ayah, then we don't come to the conclusion that the ayah was revealed twice. You'll say that these 3, 4 incidents all led up to the revelation. And there's different scenarios of that as well. But if there is a significant gap, like all the way from Uhud, an incident occurs, 3rd year of Hijrah, and then another incident occurs in Fath Makkah, in the conquest of Makkah. And the conquest of Makkah occurred in the 8th year of Hijrah, right? So there are several years in between, and there are sahih, rigorously authenticated narrations that the incident in the 3rd year led to the revelation of ayah, the incident in the 8th year led to the revelation of ayah, and both are sahih. So the ayah, we will have to come to the conclusion, was revealed twice. So this is something new we are learning here. That is it possible for the same ayah to be revealed multiple times? Yes. This is proven through a hadith, like the hadith we are going to cover now. Because beyond the story itself, it is mentioned this ayah was revealed in year 3, this ayah was again revealed in year 8. So the ayah can be revealed multiple times. Once for each occasion mentioned in the narrations. This approach ensures that both reports are acknowledged. We do not have to believe in one and reject the other. We do not have to accept one and reject the other one. We can reconcile both, believe in both. This is called tatbiq. We make tatbiq, we reconcile both and believe in both. There is no contradiction between them. An example is in Surah al-Nahl, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِنْ عَاقَبْتُمْ فَعَاقِبُوا بِمِثْلِ مَا عُقِبْتُمْ بِهِ. If somebody does wrong to you, you have two options. If somebody wronged you, if somebody did zulm upon you, if somebody oppressed you, you have two options. The better option, Allah Ta'ala mentions it towards the end here, which is وَلَئِن صَبَرْتُمْ. If you opt for patience, if somebody wronged you and you are patient with them, لَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لِلصَّابِرِينَ. It is definitely much better for those who are patient. This is one option. Okay, this option, you may say, if it's a better one, why isn't it mentioned first? Right? You should talk about the good thing first. The reason the better option is not mentioned first is because, as we will learn shortly in the Asbāb al-Nuzūl, the story behind the revelation, this whole option of forgiving and doing sabr is just added as a benefit. That it's not always about taking revenge. You can also forgive and you can get reward. That's mentioned as an option, even though that's not even part of the actual story. The part of the story that this ayah is referring to is the first part, which is that if you want to harm those who have harmed you in retaliation, then make sure فَعَاقِبُوا بِمِثْلِ مَا عُوقِبْتُمْ. You see the word عَاقَبْتُمْ, عَاقِبُوا, عُوقِبْتُمْ comes 3 times. If they were to harm you and you want to harm them back in retaliation, then you should harm them in the same measure that they had harmed you. Meaning, if somebody has done dhulm upon you, you cannot do more than that dhulm back. It has to be the same. Okay, so this is justice. And if you want to make sabr, it's better for those who are patient. During the time of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, one example of taking the iqab and the punishment exactly proportionate to how much a person receives the zulm, you give that amount of retribution. I will not say zulm back, because the first person who committed the wrong did zulm. Now if you're taking retaliation for it, for justice, will the second one be called zulm? It's not zulm, it's adl, it's justice. One example of it, subhanallah, is during the khilafah of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu, because he was known, mashallah, for many sifat, many beautiful attributes, his shuja'ah, his bravery, and his ilm and his knowledge. We already covered the detailed over a whole week or 4 or 5 days about muwafaqat of Umar radiyallahu anhu, how he was mulham, how he had ilham from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and in multiple occasions he gave an opinion. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the ayah according to his opinion. إِنَّ الْحِكْمَةَ تَنْطِقُ مِنْ لِسَانِ عُمَرٍ. Verily the wisdom springs forth from the tongue of Umar. لَوْ كَانَ بَعْدِي نَبِيًّا لَكَانَ عُمَرٍ. If there would be a prophet after me, it would have been Umar. Whichever alley he goes through, shaitan runs away from there. أَشَدُّهُمْ فِي أَمْرِ اللَّهِ عُمَرٍ. The strongest in the matters of the deen is Umar, etc., etc. Many manaqib and virtues of him. One very beautiful story is that during his khilafah, Islam spread into, mashallah, the north and the west. Everywhere the deen was spreading. And Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas radiyallahu anhu conducted the Futuh al-Iraq and Qadsiya. He was the Fatih of Kisra in the Persian Emperor and Persian Empire. The Persian Emperor actually fled, and then he finally was killed during the Khilafah of Uthman. But the fall of Madain, the capital, happened. And then you have Futuh al-Sham as well, where Khalid bin Walid and Abu Ubaidah bin al-Jarrah, Amir al-Ummah, they conquered Bilad al-Sham, being today's Syria, Lebanon, Israel, Palestine, Jordan. That whole area is called Bilad al-Sham. It's one country divided after World War I by the Europeans. And thereafter, Amr ibn al-As radiyallahu anhu, he was the Fatih of Misr. Udkhulu Misra insha'Allahu aminina. Right, so he entered into Egypt and he conquered Egypt. So there was a Maghlub Qawm, the conquered nation, which were the Qibti, the Qibt. These are the people from the time of Fir'aun. The Fir'auni nation was also the Qibti nation. Just like when Musa alayhi salam, he went out and he saw one Bani Israeli and one Qibti fighting. And this is the students of Qasas al-Nabi had the fresh memory of this. So the word Qibti comes there, Copt. But then what happened over time, they adopted Christianity. So it became the Coptic Egyptian church. You can look it up, they're still around, the Coptic Church of Egypt. They were not part of the Catholic, they were the Orthodox, like the Eastern Orthodox religions, but there are a couple of variations of that. The Russian Orthodox, the Ukrainian Orthodox, different from Russian one, right? And then very different nowadays. And then you have, subhanAllah, the Babylonian, but they're gone. And then you have the Egyptian one. Greek, of course. So these are the Coptic church, the Orthodox church. So they were the Christians. And keep in mind, in that time, if there's a Fatih nation, a Ghalib nation who has overrun the country or is ruling the country, the vanquished nation, the conquered people, they did not have any rights. If the conquerors were the Mongols, then they would be erecting big pillars and towers made of skulls of the conquered people. And the Romans, wherever they went, they forced them into the entire population, subjugated them to slavery and etc. As we know, the different zulm that was taking place, oppression. So if there was a Qibti in Egypt, per the culture of that time, he should not have had much rights now that the Muslims are ruling. Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu, who was the conqueror of Egypt, one of his sons, who did not have the opportunity of tarbiyah under Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was a young man. You could consider him the prince of Egypt. His father is the ruler of Egypt, the governor of Egypt. So he had a horse race. He was into horse racing with an Egyptian Qibti. And what happened is the Egyptian Qibti, his horse beat the prince's horse. So he was angry. He said, "You're cheated," or this or that. And he got mad and he said, "How dare this happens?" And he said, "No, my horse won. What are you talking about?" And he may have said something to him back. "What do you think? Just because you're the prince, your horse has to win?" Etc., etc. Something. So he got so mad, not just because his horse won, but because of some altercation that happened, that he ended up taking out his whip in a fit of anger. Like shaitan, yajri min al-insan majra ad-dam. It comes in another context, but shaitan runs through the body, courses through the body like the blood through the veins. And shaitan makes us angry, and we end up saying things, doing things that we regret afterwards, but sometimes it's too late. Whatever we say with our tongue is gone. It comes out and it may cause its impact. جَرَحَاتُ سِنَانِ لَهَا الْتِيَامُ وَلَا يَلْتَامُ مَا جَرَحَ اللِّسَانُ. The wounds that are inflicted by the spears, over time they may heal, but the wounds inflicted by the tongue, they never heal. Well, hopefully they will heal too, but this is what the poet says. وَلَا يَلْتَامُ مَا جَرَحَ اللِّسَانُ. So, that's why Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam saw two people fighting and he said, إِنِّي لَأَعْرِفُ كَلِمَةً لَوْ قَالَهَا لَذَهَبَ عَنْهُ الَّذِي يَجِدُ. I know of such a statement, if you would say it, they would utter it, then the anger they're feeling would go away. إِنَّهَا أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ اسْمِ الْعَلِيمِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ. Or إِنَّهَا أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ. To say أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ. I seek protection of Allah from shaitan the cursed. And you should drink water also if you're angry. I'm not very angry, but I'm just saying. And if you're standing, you sit down. If you're sitting down, you lay down. Many different cures for that. But he didn't adopt any of those cures. Unfortunately, at that time, the shaitan overcame him. استحوذ عليهم الشيطان فأنساهم ذكر الله. Right? Shaitan, he's not Hizb al-Shaitan, but shaitan overcame him at that moment. He took out his whip and he whipped him. So this Qibti, this Egyptian, caught Maghlub, vanquished nation, conquered people, one of the conquered people, he heard of the justice of Umar radiallahu anhu. So from Egypt, he traveled all the way to Medina Munawwara and he lodged his complaint. Umar radiallahu anhu became very, very angry and upset. And he sent a letter to Amr ibn al-As radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Just like when you studied American history from St. Louis to where the gold rush occurred in the West, in California and Colorado, etc., in the West, they had to communicate. Before the Union Pacific and the railroads were built, they had a pony express, right? From the gateway city to the west was St. Louis, they had ponies, they had different stations at set miles, and they would have fresh horses waiting, and then they would be horses would be galloping at full speed, right? 1 horsepower engine, right? And it would go from one station to the next at top speed, full 1.0, right? Not 0.75, 0.5, galloping. You know, the horse walks and canters, and what is it called? You know, it's fully not trotting, galloping. And then when he gets to his destination, there would be a rider waiting there. And this horseman who is galloping with a leather bag of the mail, he would throw it to him. He just throws it to him, and then he's panting and his horse, and then take a break. That rider would run at full speed to the next station, and he would throw it to the rider waiting there. Like that, they would communicate, the Pony Express. So Umar radiallahu anhu already had this centuries earlier. So he wrote a letter, because sometimes we think if he wrote a letter, how did he just get there? Sometimes you have the karama, as we covered, Ya Sari, al-Jabal, not all the time. So when the letter reached Amr bin al-As radiallahu anhu in Egypt, then he read it, and what was in the letter, he said that upon receipt of this letter, yourself and your son immediately proceed to Medina, and I want an audience with you. Or audience would be the other way, that I am demanding you to come in my presence. So Amr ibn al-As, when he saw this, he didn't know why. He just got a letter, you got to present yourself. And he started shaking, even though he was not some weak person. He was a very, very able administrator, politician from Jahiliyyah time. He's the one the Quraysh decided to send to Habasha to negotiate on behalf of the Quraysh to Najashi to bring the Muhajirun back. So he was a statesman. He was representing the Quraysh from the beginning, and he had a lot of wisdom. But this was the haybah of Umar radiallahu anhu, the ru'b, the awe that he inspired. I don't want to say fear. Fear means like, you know, he was going to threaten people or hurt them. No, but he was inspired awe. And so he told his son, let's go. I don't know what's going on. What did I do wrong? And then they came to Medina. When they came to Medina Munawwara, when they came in the presence of Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he brought the Qibti who narrated his story. When Amr ibn al-As heard this, he became very, very upset with his own son and was quite embarrassed. And Umar radiallahu anhu, he asked that question to the prince in very, very beautiful, strong words, which are been preserved in history, and which they say in Farsi, abidhar, like it is worthy to be written with the golden water, meaning to be written with gold, should be inscribed with gold, these historical words, which are مِن مَتَى إِسْتَعْبَدْتُمُ النَّاسَ وَقَدْ وَلَدَتْهُمْ أُمَّهَاتُهُمْ أَحْرَارًا مِن مَتَى اسْتَعْبَدْتُمُ النَّاسَ. Since when have you begun to treat like slaves such people, قَدْ وَلَدَتْهُمْ أُمَّهَاتُهُمْ أَحْرَارًا, whereas their mothers have given birth to them as free men? Since when have you begun to treat such people as slaves when their mother has given them birth as free men? So when Amr ibn al-As heard this, he wanted to show that he wanted to be fair, he wanted to be just. He's not making any excuse on behalf of his son. Unfortunately, we live in such a day and time when, you know, since we are in the educational field and other fields as well, people have this concept. Or if you're just a musalli in the masjid, and if you try to correct something with love and with respect, and you know, people, they get upset. Oh, you know, my son is, how dare you say that? No, we want to help your child. We feel that, you know, this is how we can improve. But no, you know, the school is wrong, or Fulan is wrong. I don't want to vent about that right now, but I'm just saying. But over here, Amr ibn al-As radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he didn't complain to Umar radiallahu anhu, why are you saying this? And to show his love for justice, he said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. He's the one who actually gave him the name, Amir al-Mu'mineen. That's another story. Because they were actually having a majlis. There was a mashwara taking place that what should we call the Khalifa? Because Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, in his entire Khilafah, 2.5 years, he was never called Amir al-Mu'mineen. This is like a trivia information. He was called Khalifatul Rasulillah, successor of the Prophet of Allah. The one who succeeded the Prophet of Allah. The Khalifa is a successor. So he was called Khalifatu Rasulillah, which is already a double idafa, two possessive, successor of the Messenger of Allah. Two of. So then what happened when Umar radiallahu anhu came on the scene, was appointed by Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. He in the beginning was known as Khalifati Rasulillah, the successor of the messenger of Allah. And when we study balagha, there's you're supposed in fasaha that your words should be clear, and there's something called taqid lafzi and taqid ma'navi, that if you make it difficult for people to understand what you're trying to say, and there are different ways of making it difficult. The kalam, the speech, which is fasih, right, and baligh. समझ में बात साफ आ जाए, फसाहत उसको कहते हैं, असर हो सुनने वालों पर बलागत उसको कहते हैं, right? So how can the words be clear? There's no confusion. One of the different examples in the textbooks is that you should not have tatabbu' al-idafat, multiple possessive, right? So, like, the brightness of the color of the topi of the sun of the imam, right? Like what's going on? So many. This is tatabbu' al-idafat. So this is what's happening here. So it was quite cumbersome. Khalifati Rasulillah, the successor to the Prophet of the Allah, right? So long. So after some time they said, you know what, we have to come up with a better name. So they said, okay, let's have a mashwara. So they're having a mashwara about it. And then what happened, not on this occasion, but another occasion, they were thinking, should we call him, Imam al-Muslimin? Should we call him Qa'idul Ummah? Should we call him Qa'idul Millah? Should we call him so many different, you can call him so many different things. Sayyidul Ummah. They're all, pretty much mean the same thing. Then Amr ibn al-As, he came galloping in on his horse, and he just came to the guard at Masjid Nabawi. He jumped off. And then he said to him, I'm seeking an audience this time. He was not being asked to present himself, but he was seeking an audience. He said, I seek an audience, I have a message coming from Egypt. Please take me to the Amirul Mu'mineen. He just randomly said that. So then when the guard came and he said, Amr ibn al-As from Egypt is here, he said he wants to meet the Amirul Mu'mineen. He repeated the words. So everybody was sitting there, they said, wow, that sounds nice. Has a nice ring to it. So then they said, let's just go with that. So subhanAllah, that's how the Amirul Mu'mineen title came. Anyway, over here he wanted to show his loyalty to justice as well as to Amirul Mu'mineen, and he didn't want to get in trouble too. And he didn't want to defend his son. So he told Umar radiallahu anhu that, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, give me the whip. And however many times my son whipped him, I'm going to take justice against my son. This is the pinnacle of justice, you will think, right? Subhanallah. وَإِنْ عَاقَبْتُمْ, if somebody is harming you, فَعَاقِبُوا, you may harm them back, بِمِثْلِ مَا عُوقِبْتُمْ, equal to how much you are paying. So he said, so he thought this is the best thing. But Amr ibn al-As is great, but there's someone who is greater. Who is that? Umar radiallahu ta'ala an. You think that what could be fairer than that? He took it to the next level. He said, oh Amr ibn al-As, what in the world are you proposing? You think I want to give you the whip? There is, there's something called nepotism. There is a chance that you will potentially be lighter on your son because he's your son. You may not whip him as hard as the Qibti. He said, oh, oh my God. I was trying to get in the good favor of Allah, I'm sure, first of all, as Sahabi Rasulullah, as well as Amir Mu'mineen. It's not a bad thing for the Amir Mu'mineen, particularly if he's Umar to like you. So he said, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't think about that angle. So, bimithli ma'uqibtum, exactly the same. How are we going to, who knows that? Who knows exactly how much the Qibti got hurt? The Qibti himself, right? So, Umar radiallahu anhu said, take the whip, put it in the hand of the Qibti. Over here, he's not going to say that, what if he overdoes it? He doesn't consider that a possibility. He just gives it to him, and he says, you know why? By the way, since I mentioned that, what's the fail-safe? How do you save yourself from that failure? If the Egyptian Qibti says, you know what? Now I'm going to really beat him on behalf of my whole qawm that these people overcame, right? What happens? What's the solution? The solution always at the end of the day, we believe in Malik Yawmiddin. There's a master of the day of judgment. He's watching. So if this prince gets beaten more than he had beaten, he gets, on the receiving end, he gets hit more than he had beaten, then what happens? It's going to be kafara of dhunub, forgiveness of his sins. What about all the sins are forgiven? Then it's rafu darajat, his elevation of his status. So there's Yani one hadith I remember in one book I was reading, sometimes they come up with beautiful titles. It was a sharah of a book in Urdu, of a hadith book, and the title was Muft ki Jannat, the free Jannah. So this really attracted me. That's why it impacted me. I'm still sharing with you. I said, free Jannah? Free deal. Why not? Let's go for it. So then I was reading underneath it, and there was a hadith. It was such a beautiful hadith. In fact, there's so much detail in the hadith that I have to give the disclaimer every time I narrate this hadith, that the details in this hadith are not mentioned by commentators or shurah or people with a lot of creativity and imagination. They came up with it to add mirch and masala to make it spicier and attractive. This detail in the hadith is actually the words of Rasulullah ﷺ, as follows: that there will be people on the Day of Judgment, they will open their book of deeds. And when they look in their book of deeds, right, they will receive it in their right hand. And they will be very, very happy. And they will go to the people and they will say, Ha umuqra'u kitabiya, oh, look at my book, inni dhalantu anni mulaqin hisabiya, fahuwa fi 'ishatin radiya fi jannatin 'aliyah, etc. As mentioned in Surah al-Haqqa and other places. They will be very, very happy. But this person, when he opens his book, he will see that God in right hand means he's successful, going to Jannah forever and ever. Khalideen fiha abada, that's great. But he's going to start reading it and then he's going to get worried. Why is he worried when he gets a book of deeds in his right hand? He starts reading it and he says that, wow, I'm going to Jannah. But then he sees that so many good deeds that he never did. So many hajj, so much jihad fi sabilillah, so much sadaqah, more sadaqah than he ever had earned. So his happiness is going to turn into anxiety. It's just like if you received a check in the mail and you're so excited, but then after you see pay to the order of, oh my God, this is my neighbor's check, right? Sometimes the mailmen, they make the mistakes. And when that happens, I think, oh my God, I wonder how many mistakes are happening. Everybody had that, right? If you have a neighbor who is Ameen, utlubul jar qabla dar. Seek out a good neighbor before you buy the house. So anyway, like that Yehudi in Baghdad, he put his house in the market and people said, are you out of your minds? I understand you are greedy, but I mean, look at the comps. You're insane, like how much you're asking for your house. He said, there's no value for it. It's priceless, but I had to come up with a number. He said, what's so priceless about your house? He said, what's the value of your neighbor being Abdullah ibn Mubarak? Right. So anyway, so then what happens is that the neighbor, if he brings it, then you have to give it to somebody else. So same thing happened. He looked at his book of deeds and he said that, oh, this is not mine. This is not mine. I didn't do all of these things. So then he'll ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can't trick Allah. He knows that. He's not going to hide it. Okay, let me just take it and try to get in Jannah with this. So he says, Ya Allah, whose book of deeds? This is such a great record. Ya layta li, I wish it was mine. It's just unfortunately not mine. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, do you know, in the dunya people wronged you. And you made sabr, this one. وَلَئِن صَبَرْتُمْ لَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لِلصَّابِرِينَ. Let's consider a tafsir of this part. It's also answering the potential objection if the Qibti overhit him, right? But that's a little bit ba'id, far. This one is an explanation of this part of the ayah. So Allah Ta'ala will say that you were hurt and you made sabr. And when you're doing sabr, all your sins were forgiven. And after that is bonus. All the good deeds, all the sins are forgiven, and then you get bonus. So you got this book of deeds, first of all, is yours. It's nobody else's. Nobody's going to get a wrong book of deeds. There's no mistake happening today. It is yours, and all of these additional good deeds are as a reward for the sabr that you did. Subhanallah. But remember I said in the beginning that there's a lot of detail that it seems like it's additional masala added to make it attractive. It's not up in this part. The final nail in the coffin, or the final cream on the top, rather than the straw that broke the back of the camel, gives a negative connotation. So rather I'll say the final cream on the top is that at that point he will make a tamanna, he will desire. This desire is just like mind-blowing. He will make a tamanna and he will make a desire that, oh Allah, can you please, I wish you could send me back to the dunya. Now there are a lot of people desiring to go back to the dunya, but most of those people are which ones? The criminals, the bad ones, right? Rabbana absarna wa sami'na. Oh Allah, we have heard the Jahannam and we have seen it with our eyes. Farji'na na'amal salihan. Send us back, we'll do good deeds this time. Inna muqinun, we have yaqeen. Haqqul yaqeen, aynul yaqeen. Allah will say, Kalla, it's not. This person, he will make tamanna, he will desire, oh Allah, I wish you can send me back. Why? Why you want to go back? O Allah, send me back and send so many enemies and torturers upon me. Such torturers, that the description is there, that with iron nails, they will be separating my skin from my flesh. This is before we have studied anatomy, physiology, where the pain receptors are where? In the skin, right? If you ask a neurosurgeon, he will confirm this, that if you take like a fork, I know this may sound gross, but like the brain, if you scramble it up, you will not feel any pain, right? The pain receptors are in the skin. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about the Jahannami, those who are burning the fire, that كُلَّمَا نَضِجَتْ جُلُودُهُمْ subhanallah بَدَّلْنَاهُمْ جُلُودًا غَيْرَهَا لِي يَذُوقُ الْعَذَابِ of ta'leel. That whenever their skins will burn up in the Jahannam, بَدَّلْنَاهُمْ جُلُودًا غَيْرَهَا, we will replace their skin with other skin. Why? لِيَذُوقُ الْعَذَابِ, because the pain, the sensors for the pain are in the skin. Allah Ta'ala could have said that, the flesh will continue to burn, or the bones will be there. But He mentions the skin. Just like the fruits of Jannah, everything is continuous, different things, the Adhab of Jahannam is continual. Subhanallah. So this hadith says that He will say, oh Allah, they should have iron nails, and with the iron nails, they should be tearing apart my skin from my flesh. So I can have what? Maximum pain. He's desiring maximum pain. Then I will have the opportunity to make sabr. And I will have the opportunity to forgive them. Because at the end of the day, based on this book of deeds that I see, it will be totally the greatest deal ever. It'll be so worth it. It's like so crazy if you think about it. It's just mind-blowing. He's actually making tamanna and desiring to be sent back so he can be tortured in the medically, physically, the worst possible way, so that he could forgive them, because he believes this is totally worth it. Because the thawab that you're going to get for forgiving somebody is totally worth it. The reason I explain this is that in your life, if you have someone that is so hard to forgive, or if you know somebody who is bearing a grudge, I think this is one of the most phenomenal things. You can tell them that you have two options. You can keep that anger in your heart, or if you forgive the zalim who did zulm on you, you have a great potential. There are people who are going to make tamanna and desire that they have somebody who have tortured them so they can forgive, but you already got tortured. By the way, again, we should not make dua to Allah. Oh Allah, send a torturer so I can forgive. You're not supposed to. Because this is contrary to the hidayah and guidance from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Sahaba already did that. They were so hadith for thawab that they actually did this. When they heard about the rewards for sickness, somebody made dua. They wanted to be sick, because sick person also, sins are forgiven. That's why when you go to visit a sick person, what do we say? La ba'sa, don't worry, tahurun inshallah, you're being purified. So they wanted to ask for sickness. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, La salullah al-afiyah. Salullah al-afiyah. Ask from Allah afiyah. Wal-afiyatu is as-salama min jami' al-afat wal-masaib ad-diniyya wal-dunyawiyya wal-ukhrawiyya. Is safety and security from all types of calamities. Allahumma inna nas'aluka al-afwa wal-afiyah. Allahumma inna na'udhu bika min kulli bala'i dunya wa adhab al-akhirah. We seek protection from all worldly calamities and adhab al-akhirah. So we should ask from Allah afiyah. If you learn that, okay, if you go for Hajj, the more difficult your Hajj is, the greater the reward. So you shouldn't make dua, oh Allah, allow my baggage to be lost so I spend the whole Hajj with my carry-on. Oh Allah, allow me to miss my flights. Oh Allah, in fact, allow them to be cancelled. So I'm sitting in the terminal for 2 days. How much thawab am I going to get? You should not make dua for that. Rather, at every step, what dua we make? Common theme is two things. Make it easy and accept it. Allahumma inni uridu al-hajja fayassirhu li wa taqabbalhu. Allahumma inni uridu al-umrah fayassirha li wa taqabbal. Allahumma inni uridu al-tawaf fayassirhu li wa taqabbal. Allahumma inni uridu al-sa'ya fayassirhu li wa taqabbal. Every single step, oh Allah, make it easy, accept it. So this is the reward for sabr. Now, going back to the story, this was explaining if the Qibti overdid it, what's going to happen to the poor victim. Because everybody is age of skepticism, age of attacks. Every action is going to be attacked. Okay, Umar Dana, you're so worried about justice against the prince. What about justice for the prince too? So that's what was covered. So Umar radiallahu anh took the whip, told Amr bil As, you think you're going to be fair? You're going to be in fact light, or possibility of it. So put it in the hand of the Qibti. So the Qibti, he held the whip. And he said, as they say in Urdu, like he was like amazed, he was shocked. What in the world is going on? I have the whip in my hand, I have the Khalifa in front of me, I have the actual governor of Egypt here, and I have the son, and I'm supposed to whip him. And he was supposed to be in the culture of what? Maybe his skull would have been adorning some tower somewhere. So he said that, Allahu Akbar. What happened? How many times did you think he whipped him? You know how typically these stories end, right? He dropped the whip and he said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. It's one of the typical endings. I don't want to say typical in the sense like they're all made up, na'udhu billahi min zalik, but they are true stories. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. He accepted Islam. So this is an example of equal. And we got also example of sabr. So alhamdulillah, we're good to go with one example each. Only one. Can you believe it? It's just one only. But then what is the Asbāb al-Nuzūl? Why did Allah Ta'ala reveal this ayah? So the Asbāb al-Nuzūl is where we're going to come to. Is, subhanallah, we have, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that in the time of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, we have Battle of Uhud and we have Fath Makkah. So when the Battle of Uhud occurred, there was a very great tragedy. In that tragedy, there was a lot of tragedy. 70 Sahaba became shaheed. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam's own, his face was hit with the sword, his own face. And then the chain armor, it penetrated his cheek. It penetrated his cheek and went into his gums. And as a result of that, what happened? His teeth came out, he was bleeding. And he put his hand to his face, and his hand was filled with blood. And he said, كَيْفَ يُفْلِحُ قَوْمٌ شَجُّوا وَجْهَ نَبِيِّهِمْ. How can such people ever be successful when they have bloodied and injured the face of their Prophet? So among the tragedies was Hamza radiallahu anhu, Asadullah wa Asad Rasulihi, uncle of Rasulullah, brother of Rasulullah, foster brother of Rasulullah. Both had drink the milk of Thuwayba. And he was killed. And unfortunately, I already went on so many tangents, but so I will skip this one about Hamza radiallahu anhu and his shahada and Wahshi bin Harb and Hind and Fulan. It's a very beautiful story. But for now, we'll just understand that he was shaheed. Not only shaheed, but what's relevant, like the super relevant parts of it, is that he wasn't just killed, right? What happened to his body? Mutilated. It's horrific. His nose was cut off, his ears were cut off, his body parts were cut off. He was opened up and his body parts were taken out, his organs, and they were chewed by Hind in retaliation for the anger she had. This was definitely not بِمِثْلِ مَا عُوقِبْتُمْ. It was way beyond, right? But al-Islam yahdimu ma kana qabla. Islam, it forgives everything that happened before. Allahu Akbar. So when this happened, so we have to understand the emotions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when he saw the body of Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu, as a human being, he was a human being. Qul, say, innama ana bashar. I am a human being. But there's one major difference. Yuha ilayya. I received divine revelation, and you don't. That's a very big difference. So and human emotions overcame him. What happened? أخذ الحاكم والبيهقي في الدلائل وبزار عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه. Abu Hurairah narrates أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وقف على حمزة. Nabi صلى الله عليه وسلم stood by the body of Hamza. حين استشهد, when he was martyred. It was such a terrible sight. He told his sister Safiya, the mother of Zubair ibn Awam, we covered before, when we were talking about Urwa ibn Zubair, the grandmother of Urwa ibn Zubair, Safiya bint Abdul Muttalib, don't dare see your brother. You will not be able to see that. Whatever image you have of your brother when he was alive, just keep that. Because this image will what? Give you nightmares and will be traumatizing you for life. You don't want to see this. So he saw it, حين استشهد, when he was martyred, and he was mutilated. So he said, out of anger, out of emotion, he said, لَأُمَثِّلَنَّ بِالسَّبْعِينَ مِنْهُمْ مَكَانَكَ. Oh Hamza, oh my uncle, I will mutilate 70 of them in retaliation for you. I want to defend my Habib. I think you are enough audience here, good enough audience. This is not some interfaith gathering. Well, you know that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, what did he do? He forgave the people of Taif. What did he do? He forgave the people of Makkah. He said, لا أقول لكم إلا كما قال يوسف بن يعقوب لإخوته لا تثريب عليكم اليوم يغفر الله لكم وهو arhamur rahimin. He said to them, I will not say to you anything more than what Yusuf bin Yaqub said to his brothers. I'll forgive you. In fact, I don't even lay any blame upon you. I don't even blame you. Like Yusuf alayhi salam, he did not lay any blame. He didn't even say, okay, you were wrong, but you know what? I'm going to be so generous to forgive you. He blamed shaitan. He passed the buck on to shaitan. You know, when finally his father and mother and everyone came, when وَرَفَعَ بَوَيْهِ عَلَى الْعَرْشِ, when he raised his parents on the throne, then he said, Ya abati, he said, oh my father, هَذَا تَأْوِيلُ رُؤْيَايَ مِنْ قَبْلِ. Remember when I was a kid, I told you the dream? And father and mother is the sun and the moon. And 11 stars are 11 brothers. They all did sajda to him because in that Sharia was permissible. هَذَا تَأْوِيلُ رُؤْيَايَ مِنْ قَبْلِ قَدْ جَعَلَهَا رَبِّي حَقًّا. Allah made my dream come true. And then look at, it's so amazing how he skips over all the bad parts and he talks about the good parts of his life. وَقَدْ أَحْسَنَ بِي. Allah did so much ihsan upon me. إِذْ أَخْرَجَنِي مِنَ السِّجْن. When he took me out of the jail. He doesn't, how do you come out of the jail unless you enter the jail? So he skips the part of being in prison. He just talks about how Allah was so kind in taking me out. وَقَدْ أَحْسَنَ بِي إِذْ أَخْرَجَنِي مِنَ السِّجْن وَجَاءَ بِكُم مِنَ الْبَدْوِ. And Allah Ta'ala allowed you to come in for us to meet one again. What about the decades of being separated? He skips that. Then he said, مِن بَعْدِ أَن نَزَغَ الشَّيْطَانُ بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَ إِخْوَتِي. After shaitan had created the difference between me and my brothers. He didn't say they were criminals and threw me into the well. They knew what they were doing. He said, no, shaitan had caused the confusion. Now Allah Ta'ala had healed the hearts. Subhanallah. So this is what Rasulullah did. The one who accused his wife of zina, na'udhu billahi min zalik, Abdullah bin Ubay ibn Salul. The one who had multiple assassination attempts against him. The one who said, لَنُخْرِجَنَّ الْأَعَزُّ مِنْهَا الْأَذَلَّ. We are the honored people, we will expel these despicable muhajirun and their leader Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The one who had a lifetime of plots against him. What did he do? He went and performed the janazah for him. Even though Allah Ta'ala already said, Istaghfir lahum wa la tastaghfir lahum in tastaghfir lahum 70 marra. Make istighfar for them or you don't. Even if you do 70 times, Allah will never forgive them. Umar radhiyallahu anhu, this is one of his muwafaqat as well. He said, Ya Rasulullah, I don't think you should do this. I don't think you should go lead his janazah. Allah Ta'ala revealed this. He said, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I will do more than 70 times istighfar. Even though 70 doesn't mean 70, it means many times. I told you to do your homework 100 times. You still didn't do your homework? So what do the kids say? Dad, Baba, you told me 3 times. You still have 97 to go, right? So what does 100 times mean? It means a lot. So 70 means a lot. He didn't just perform his janazah. What did he do? He went into the qabr. He helped him. It's not you have to go down, put him inside the lahad, and gave his own qamis as his shirt as the kafan. Then Allah said, وَلَا تُصَلِّ أَحْلَى أَحْدٍ مِّنْهُمْ مَاتَ أَبَدًا وَلَا تَقُمْ عَلَى قَبْرِهِ إِنَّمْ كَفَرُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. You better, Allah is saying, do not pray janazah, lead janazah for them. Do not stand by their graves. Do not make dua for them. These are kuffar. So he was forgiving, right? I just want to give a few examples of how he forgave people. Because if you just see this, you're going to say, wow, look at that. But an emotion overcame him and he said, I will mutilate 70 minhum makanaka. Oh my Hamza, oh my beloved brother and uncle, in your retaliation, in your revenge, I am going to do this to 70 of them. فَنَزَلَ جِبْرِيلُ. So Jibreel alayhi salam came down. He didn't come, he didn't just come. Whenever Jibreel comes, he only comes order of Allah Ta'ala. Because Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam one time told him, لِمَا لَا تَزُورَنَا أَكْثَرَ مِمَّا تَزُورَنَا. Why don't you visit us more than you do? Because I love, spending time with you, oh Jibreel, Ruh al-Amin. So Jibreel alayhi salam, then the ayah came, وَمَا نَتَنَزَّلُ إِلَّا بِأَمْرِ رَبِّكَ. I cannot come down without the amr of Allah. So that's the Asbāb al-Nuzūl for that one. So this one over here is, subhanallah, Nazala Jibreel. Jibreel alayhi salam came down. What did he say? I lost my place. He said, وَالنَّبِيُّ وَاقِفٌ. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was still standing by Hamza Radhi's grave. And he revealed this ayah. This ayah was revealed by Allah. He brought it. He's the messenger. The ayah is, وَإِنْ عَاقَبْتُمْ فَعَاقِبُوا. You can only mutilate one. But beyond that, you cannot. You see the story? So this happened. Everybody knows. Hamza Radhiallahu anhu, Sayyidul Shuhada. This was 3rd Hijri. Okay? Now, then we said multiple incidents. And we have one ayah. So there's another incident. We'll end with this one. We had some more slides, but we got too long. Makkah, the conquest of Makkah. What is the second one? وأخرج الترمذي وحسنه والحاكم عن أبي بن كعب رضي الله عنه. أقرأهم, the great Qari of Medina, Ubay ibn Ka'b, he narrates, لما كان يوم أحد. Okay, this also starts with Uhud. So that's why I paused to wait a second. Is this Uhud? No, but watch, Fateh Makkah is going to appear. When it was the day of Uhud, أصيب بين الأنصار 64. 64 Ansar became shaheed. وَمِنَ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ 6. Only 6 Muhajirin. This is, by the way, the same metrics. In Badr, in Uhud, in Khandaq. When it comes to Anfus, lives, who gave the lives? Ansar. And then when it comes to Amwal, of course, financially their support. Every single time. And then when these new converts from Makkah in Hunain, they got all the camels and goats and sheep. And that's why one of the Ansar, young man, he said that in the dam taqturu min suyufina, that the blood is dripping from our swords, and we're lucky to be alive. Many of us became shaheed, but they're taking the sheep and camels and everything, these Qurayshis. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam called a specific session with Ansar only, and he spoke to them in his heart, and he said that, Subhanallah, he mentioned how much he loved the Ansar. لو سلك الأنصار واديا وسلك لو سلك الناس واديا وسلك الأنصار واديا لسلكت وادي الأنصار. If all the people are traveling and everyone takes one way and the Ansar take one way, I'll go with the Ansar. And the people are like the outer garment, Ansar are like the inner garment, near my heart. And so he said that let me show what I have, my relationship with you. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentioned 3 things, that أَلَمْ تَكُونُوا مُتَفَرِّقِينَ فَجَمَعَكُمُ اللَّهُ بِي. Were you not divided amongst yourself and Allah united you through me? He said, الْمِنَّةُ لِلَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. All thanks to Allah and His Rasul. أَلَمْ تَكُونُوا ضَالِّينَ فَهَدَاكُمُ اللَّهُ بِي. Were you not astray? Allah guided you through me? They said, الْمِنَّةُ لِلَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. All ihsan and favor to Allah and the Rasul. Then أَلَمْ تَكُونُوا عَالَّةً. Were you not poor? فَأَغْنَاكُمُ اللَّهُ بِي. Allah made you rich through me. They said, الْمِنَّةُ لِلَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, I said, now it's your turn to speak. So they said, Al-minnatu lillahi rasuli. We have nothing to say. No, say what you have done. They said, we have nothing to say. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam then said, لو شئتم لقلتم وصدقتم وصدقتم. If you wished, you could have responded. And you would have spoken the truth, and I would have testified that you're also speaking the truth. You could have said, أَلَمْ تَكُنْ مَطْرُودًا فَأَوَيْنَاكَ. Were you not kicked out by your people and we gave you refuge? Were you not alone and we supported you? Right? Were you not, when there was no one believing in you, we believed in you. We took the pledge of Aqaba. And Abbas was there when we were giving our hand. He said, hold on. If you're going to put your hand and take this pledge, then your wives will become widows, your children will become orphans, and you'll have to sacrifice all your wealth. So the Ansari, he asked Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, is what your uncle saying true? Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, yes, it will happen. So then he said, what's the compensation? What's the reward for that? All of that. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, Jannah. Then he said, okay, I'm ready. So these were the Ansar. So then they were still hurt. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, you know what? Are you not happy that these Quraysh are going back to Makkah with ibil, with camels and sheep? Because Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam gave them more. وَتَرْجِعُونَ أَنْتُمْ بِرَسُولِ اللَّهِ. And you're going to go back with Rasulullah. Because they were afraid that he left Makkah, his watan, because it was under the mushrikun. But now it has just been conquered. He's probably going to move back to Makkah and you're going to lose him. I'm going to go back with you. So that was the level of the Ansar. So over here, look at the numbers. There's 70 shuhada. Everybody perhaps who studies seerah knows there's 70, but maybe we didn't know the breakdown. What is the breakdown? Arba'atun wa sittun. 64 of the shuhada are Ansari, and وَمِنَ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ السِّتَّةِ. Only 6 from the Muhajirun. Those 6 were, minhum giants, of course. Hamza bin Abdul Muttalib, Mus'ab ibn Umair, etc. And so they were also mutilated. فَقَالَتِ الْأَنصَارِ. The Ansar said, you know what? لَإِنْ أَصَبْنَا مِنْهُمْ يَوْمًا مِثْلَ هَذَا. And they said that if we one day are going to get victory over them just like today, we're going to show them fit tamthil, how we can match them in mutilating them. The Ansar said that. فَلَمَّا كَانَ يَوْمَ فَتْحَ مَكَّةِ. Then on the day of the conquest of Makkah, which is 8th year of Hijrah, أنزل الله, Allah revealed this ayah. وَإِنْ عَاقَبْتُمْ فَعَاقِبُوا بِمِثْلِ مَا عُوقِبْتُمْ. No. If you want to take harm, then harm them only exactly as you were. So what happened? This ayah was revealed at the time of Fateh Makkah in the 8th year of Hijrah. Okay? وظاهر هذا تأخر نزولها إلى الفتح وفي الحديث الذي قبله نزولها بأحد. So this makes it very clear that this ayah was revealed Fateh Makkah, and the previous hadith makes it clear it was revealed in Uhud, and it is not only possible, but we believe the ayah was revealed twice. And the conclusion is, this seems like a big slide, but I will not spend time on it. It's very, basically the question is, hey, isn't that redundant? So the answer is, there is profound wisdom of Allah Ta'ala in this repetition. وَذَكِّرْ فَإِنَّ ذِكْرَى تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Remind, the reminder is beneficial for the believers. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ phenomenon. Right? Repetition is beneficial. It serves as a divine reminder from Allah, drawing attention to the valuable lessons and beneficial guidance that are contained within these repeated verses. Lessons that we are in need of. Because so many occasions in our life when we are going to have anger. So this was repeated to emphasize the importance of adhering to the noble instructions, that we have to always uphold justice when you take revenge. We have to exercise self-restraint, hold yourself back in moments of anger. And even when the time comes to take retribution, we should be patient. And inshallah, in fact, if you forgive, there'll be more reward. Right? So this is why the ayah was repeated, and there is no redundancy in that. Inshallah, we will continue with the opposite scenario that I spoke about earlier, which is a single cause and multiple revelations. Converse, the opposite of what we covered tonight. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fill our hearts with the knowledge of the Quran and give us love of Allah and His Rasul, and allow us our yaqeen in the Quran to increase. وَإِذَا تُلِيَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتُهُ. The believers are those with the ayat of the Quran revealed upon them or recited upon them. زَادَتْهُمْ إِيمَانًا. Their iman should increase. So may this be an imani majlis for us where iman increases as well. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to make amal and propagate what we have learned. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله.